What's good, everybody? I am South Bay Chris, and today I'm going to be coming at you guys with a tutorial. It's a high taper with a 4 all around and a lineup. Now let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start combing out the hair. He has very thick curly hair, so we want to make sure that we comb it out. And now I'm putting in my bald guideline, and I'm putting it pretty high for a taper because it is a high taper and we want to make sure it's nice and bald. And we got rid of the C cup, and as you can see, I'm just going in there and tapping. And as you guys see, I lightly comb the scalp just because I want a clean canvas. Make sure you're always combing, because you want to make sure you have a clean canvas. You don't want a lot of hair on the scalp while you're working with it. You want to be able to see what you're doing. And now I turned him to the other side, and I'm putting in the same guideline I put on the right side. And the key with this is just make sure that both guidelines are even. You definitely want to make sure they're even, because you don't want a lopsided fade. As you guys can see, I turned his head towards the camera, and I make sure both points are lined up, because like I said, you don't want one fade higher than the other on one side lower, one side higher. You want both fades to look even on both sides. Now we're gonna go in and we're gonna put in the number 4 on top, and we're gonna run it all over the top, all around the head. And as you guys can see, I run it and then I comb. I run it and then I comb. So I run the 4, then I comb. You want to make sure you're constantly combing to make sure you lay down all those hairs, and when you're cutting it, to make sure that it's all nice and even. And I go over it multiple times. You want to make sure that you're going over it a bunch of times, just because one stroke in the same spot is not going to get the job done. You gotta do multiple strokes. You gotta constantly cut, because you want to make sure it's all nice and even. And that goes when you're making any all even. Just make sure you're constantly going over it, because if not, you're gonna get hairs that are longer than others. Now let's go ahead and I'm gonna put in the back line for the taper. I'm not gonna show the blend on the back taper, because I'm gonna show you guys how to blend on the side, but I'm gonna show you guys where I put in the guideline. And where I ran that comb is where I'm putting in the guideline. So I'm putting in the guideline at the bottom of the earlobe, because he has quite a long neck, and I don't want to make the guideline any lower, because I don't want his neck to look really long from the back. And it is a high taper, so we want to make sure it's nice and bald in the back as well. And as you guys can see, now I'm just balding out. Make sure I get a nice clean bald out, and make sure your guidelines are nice and neat. See, my guideline is not choppy. The neater your guideline, the neater your fade. That's just a rule that I learned when I used to learn how to cut. The neater your guideline, the neater your fade. Now I'm going in with the shaver, and before I reach the top line, probably half an inch to an inch before you reach that first guideline on top, you don't want to go all the way up with the shaver. You want to make sure you flick out about half an inch to an inch before you hit that guideline, because you don't want to create a harsh line that you can't get out later. So we're just going in with the shaver, constantly going over it. Be very light with it. You don't want to burn their skin. So just like I said, be very light with it. Go about half an inch to an inch. Now the same thing goes for the side. Make sure you're not going all the way to the top line. Make sure you're flicking out, because you don't want to create that harsh guideline for yourself. All right. Now we're gonna go in and we're gonna remove our bulk. So I'm going in with the 1.5 guard opened, and this is usually what I remove my bulk with. What I set set the tone of the haircut. Like I create that foundation of the haircut. This is kind of what's gonna create that shape. So I go in all around, and because I want to remove bulk right there on the side, especially where that side taper is gonna be, where that line is gonna be at. I want to make sure it's nice and smooth and down, lowered, so when I line it up, it's nice and neat. And this is pretty much what we're gonna blend into that 1.5 open. And make sure you go all the way around the head. Make sure you're, like I said, running the clipper multiple times up and down in the same spot, because you want to make sure all that hair is nice and even and laid out. Now I'm going in with my Oster clipper over comb, and I'm blending that right into the 1.5, from the 1.5 into the top with that Oster clipper over comb. I like this comb because it's thick, and I found that this comb blends right into the 1.5. So it's this is my pack a punch, my combo. I always use this combination for all my haircuts. I clear my bulk with my 1.5, and then I blend it with that Oster comb. Now this is the blade open, and we're gonna start blending. So we're gonna create our first guideline about half an inch a little bit past half an inch long, like wide. Make sure it's anywhere between half an inch to an inch wide, because you want to give yourself room to blend. You don't want to make it too tight, especially if you're just beginning. It's gonna be way too hard for you to blend if you make it too tight. Now we're just making that first guideline. We made that first guideline. Make sure the lines are nice and neat. Now we're gonna go close, and we're gonna start getting rid of it. Now you're gonna go like barely. You're gonna take out that first line with the lever close. Now we open it a little bit. Think of it as notches, and then we take out that second line. So you're going up about 1/4 of an inch each time. This is a method I learned from Chris Bosio. Shout out to him. So you're going up, keep going up. Now we're in the middle, and just you're getting rid of the old line, creating a new line. Now we're like at the last notch before, all the way open. And now like we're pretty much blending it out. Like it's pretty much blended out now. And now we're all the way open, and we're just gonna clean up that guideline. If you kind of like didn't really get what I was saying, just go back and rewind it and just make sure you pay attention. And now I'm just kind of like playing with the lever a little bit, any little dark spots that I may see. And like I said, I'm always combing, constantly combing. Always want to be combing the hair, because you want to be laying that hair down nice and neat. And we want a clean canvas. That's what the comb is going to do. That's what the comb is there for. Get into the habit of combing and cutting. Now we have our one guard on. And right here, I am all the way closed, and I'm creating another guideline basically. So as you guys can see, I created that next guideline. Now we're gonna go halfway, and we're gonna get rid of that line I just created. So we're not going too straight up. We're kind of going straight up and like slightly flicking out, because we don't want to create a super harsh guideline. So it's all like in the wrist motion. You're kind of going and like slightly flicking out. And now we're all the way open, and we're kind of just blending into that 1.5. Blending into that 1.5. So there's a little bit of bulk right there at the top, and we're gonna go in with our 1.5 guard opened and closing it, just to try to soften up that bulk into the top. And we're not going straight up into the head, into the curve of his head. We're going straight off that like parietal ridge area. We're gonna go straight off that. Make sure you're flicking out constantly, and just keep playing with it until you kind of get those dark spots out. And now that little light line, we're gonna blend that out with our half guard, the wall half guard. Now we're gonna close it and just go up a little bit, take out that line and slightly flick out. Don't want to just go straight up. Now we open it up a little bit, and we're doing the same thing, going up. You go up into the line and slightly flick out. Go up into the line and slightly flick out. Can't stress that enough. And now we open it up again, and now like it's pretty much blended, and we're just playing with the lever. Get used to playing with the lever. Practice that, because that's gonna be your best friend. Just playing with that lever to work out that fade. All right. And now we're back with our one guard, and now I'm just messing with that blend. Any dark spots that I may see, I'm going back and attacking those spots, whatever I may think that is. Now, if you see a dark spot or a little line, and you think it's a certain number, start with maybe the number higher and just work your way down. It's always better to be safe than sorry. So like, let's say you think the half guard's gonna take that out. Start with the one open, and if it's not working, close the lever to like halfway. If it's still not working, close it all the way. Then if the one didn't work, go down to the half guard and start with the lever open, and just keep closing it until you kind of blend out that line. It's better to be safe than sorry. Now we're gonna put in our edges and those side edges, and this is a little trick I like to use. So I put talc on my hand, and I tap the trimmer on my hand with the talc, and then I tap that edge, and it kind of gives like that little like white ash effect, just to make that line pop that much more. It helps me like make it look a lot crispier, and we're just keeping that line natural. We're not pushing it back. As you guys see, I did not push it back at all, and you're able to see that fade way better. Like the lines just when you put in the lines, it makes the fade pop that much more. It's crazy. And you guys can see I'm just lightly tapping, and you want to constantly go over the line without pushing it back, because there's going to be hairs that go over the line, and you want to constantly be tapping it to make sure you get it all nice and even. Now we're going to do the back taper line. So this is the line on the back taper, and just pull down that ear with one finger, with whatever hand you're not using the clipper. Pull down that ear and just lightly put in that line, and same thing, don't push it back, just keep it natural but sharp. And And as you guys can see, once you put in that line, like that back taper just pops. And with the finger, don't be confident when you're holding down the ear. Just hold down the ear with confidence. It's not gonna hurt them. So right here, like I'm kind of flipping you guys off, sorry about that, but this is I'm using my middle finger to hold down that ear, and then we're doing the arc on top above the ear, the curve, and just draw it in like a pencil. That's the best way to do it. Just draw it in, hold down that ear with your middle finger or whatever finger you feel comfortable with, and just draw it in. And be light with it. You don't want to hurt them right there. It's kind of sensitive in that area. Make sure your trimmers aren't too sharp. You're not cutting them, because that is a very sensitive area. If your trimmers are too sharp, they're going to start redding up really fast. Just go in with that curve and just put it in. Alright, now we're going to get into the lineup, guys. And right here, I'm combing down those hairs in the front, and I'm removing the bulk in the front. I'm doing the clip over comb. I'm not putting the comb too in. I'm pulling out with the comb and just like clipping those hairs. I want to just even it out, lay it out nice, and make it shorter than it was, because it's going to be easier to line up, and it's going to be a smoother lineup, and it's going to look a lot crispier and fresher as well. And we're putting hairspray. This is Tresemme extra hold, and I cover his eyes with my hand. Make sure you cover his eyes so none of the hairspray gets in his eyes, because it will burn. And we put the hairspray on the forehead, and now I'm using the blow dryer to dry it up faster, just because I don't want to wait. It takes a little while to dry up, so little trick, use the blow dryer to dry it up. And now we're gonna start lining him up. I turn his head towards me. Make sure his head is straight, and make sure their eyes are closed when you're lining it up. Trick, just a little trick here is just make sure, tell them to close their eyes, tell them not to look at you, tell them to relax their forehead, make sure they're not stretching out their forehead, make sure they're not raising their eyebrows. Just tell them, hey bro, relax and close your eyes. That's what I tell all my clients, relax and close your eyes. And it just makes your job way easier. So we started in the middle, and I'm making my way to the left. I'm doing the left side, and then we're gonna match it up with the right side later on. So as you guys can see, I'm tapping and I brush down. I'm tapping and I brush down. Make sure you're brushing those hairs down, because you want to get any stragglers that hang over the lineup. And you want to constantly be tapping. You're not going to get a nice lineup in one tap all the way around. You got to constantly tap. When you're cutting hair, it's a constant motion. You got to go over every spot multiple times, because one stroke is not going to get it. And now we're making our way to the right, and I'm constantly combing, constantly brushing the hair down, and then I'm tapping. And be very light with it. Don't try and keep it as natural as possible. Don't push it back. Like I said, just keep it natural, but keep it sharp. And I'm kind of doing that talk trick I told you guys about earlier. It helps me like kind of see the lineup a little bit better. That's a little trick. I learned that off Mark the Barber. That isn't my trick. I learned, he posted it on Instagram, and I was like, damn, that's tight. So right now we're on the right side, and I'm just lightly tapping, and I matched it up with the left side, and it's coming out pretty straight. Like, it doesn't look lopsided. So I always like to do one side, and then I match it up with the other. That's the way I found easiest for me to line up. Let's see so right here, I'm just going over it. So I kind of did my rough draft, put in the lineup, and now I just take a step back and I look at it. And I look at it and see any spots that I gotta hit, any imperfections in the lineup. I want to make sure it's as perfect as I can get it. Constantly brush down. And now we're gonna apply enhancements. This is Kiss semi-permanent dye with the air compressor, and you put the card there and just lightly spray. Don't pull the trigger too hard, because you don't want to make it look unnatural. Just lightly spray, and this lasts a few days. If they use shampoo or soap, it's gonna wash out. But if they just use water's not gonna rinse it. And now I'm just going in with the trimmer and adding a little bit of details. And as you can see, like, the cut didn't need the enhancements, but it just enhanced the cut. That's all it was. It didn't make the cut. It's not gonna like. One thing that like Barber Matt always told me is like, enhancements, don't use enhancements to make your cut, just use it to enhance your cut. Like, so your cut doesn't need it, but it's just gonna enhance it and make it look that much better. And now I'm going in with the razor, and make sure you stretch the skin. Make sure you lay the blade flat. Don't like angle it straight down. Lay it flat and stretch the skin and just glide it. I don't even use shave gel. I don't like to use shave gel in the lineups, just because I feel like I could get a cleaner, crispier lineup and get more detail without the shave gel. I feel like shave gel or shave cream is like too messy on the lineup. I never get no complaints from any of my clients saying that it's too rough. You just gotta be confident with it. Just glide it across their forehead. And now I'm gonna do that back line on the taper on his neck, and I pull the ear down with my thumb, and I'm just going around that curve. And this right here, this is like a must, because like it's just gonna make that taper pop that much more. And honestly, a lot of barbers don't do this. I get clients that come for the first time and I do this to them and they're like, damn, my barber doesn't use the razor on the back of the neck. So this is something that's gonna make you stand out. It's these details that count, and the clients notice. They notice everything. So just glide that razor across the face. Now we're gonna use some shaving cream on the back of the neck. This is like hot lather. It feels pretty good. I like using this for the shave on the back. I don't always use it. Sometimes I'll use shave gel. Sometimes if it's just a few hairs, I'll just dry shave it. But I usually like to do this, and you're just pulling that neck with one hand and just gliding the razor down. And I have like a napkin right there that I'm just putting all the excess cream and hairs once I cut them, and I'm just pulling that neck, shaving, cleaning, pulling the neck, shaving, putting the excess on the towel, and just getting right into it. And now we're putting in the finishing details. So like when you want to take a picture or you're taking a video of your cut, this is a great little trick. The trick I was telling you guys about earlier. Put the talc on your hand, tap it with the trimmer, and then tap all your lines with it. It's just gonna make that cut pop back that much more. It's gonna make it look like you have that ash line effect. And it's look at how clean that cut is looking, and like what it just gives it that contrast from the skin to the lineup to the fade to the, like, it just makes everything pop that much more. Look how clean that high taper is looking. And it's just those details. And make sure before you take a picture or video, dust off your client. Before he leaves a chair, make sure you dust them off. Make sure you always dust them off. Dust off their neck, their face, the back of their neck. And this is pretty much the finished cut, guys. That's a high bald taper with a 4 on top and a lineup. And we kept this lineup natural. We used enhancements. It doesn't look overly fake. Y'all tell me if it looks fake, because I don't think it does. And this is the back taper. Check it out. Nice and blurry. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys were able to learn something off this. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe. It would mean a lot. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm going to be dropping videos every week. Thank you guys. I'll catch you guys next time.